Hello, today I'd like to talk about Doom 3. Now, Doom 3 is an interesting game because, well, I was super excited for it, and then I purchased it when it came out on PC originally, which I think was 2004. Um, and I played it a little bit, and I got frustrated. I um, felt like you had to circle strafe to avoid the enemy projectiles, and everything was really tight in corridors, and then I would try and like sneak away in a closet, and then it turned out it was a monster closet, and then something would hit me over the head, and I just didn't think it was a very good game, and I got pretty frustrated and uh, just called it quits. But recently I began to think about it more like as a horror game, and to see if now that I am much more interested in horror games, if I could appreciate it. So I've been meaning to play it for a while, and then I was sort of deliberating whether to play the original PC version I bought, or the BFG Edition, or if I wanted to play it on PC or console, and usually I do most of my gaming on console, so I decided to get the Xbox 360 BFG Edition. Um, so, firstly, I think the main problem that Doom 3 suffers from is that players' expectations versus the game they were making are completely different. I think the developers were trying to make an action horror game when people like myself back in 2004 or whatever, excuse me, were expecting an action game, and as such, things like monster closets and all the things they try to do for jump scares don't work very, or sort of are contrary to what people wanted. So I think that's why there is a lot of sort of controversy over whether Doom 3 was a good game or not, because if you like horror games and you were expecting a horror game, or you're okay with that, then it's I wouldn't say it's a great horror game, but certainly it's entertaining. And but if you wanted an action game with BFGs and super guns, then it probably wasn't for you. And so let me just talk about, now that I appreciate horror games more, and I played it as a horror game, I think it was not, I mean, it's pretty good. Certainly the things they were doing with lighting were really sort of impressive back then, because I think it came out before the Xbox 360 and that sort of generation of consoles, and so there wasn't a lot of cool lighting and shader effects going on for a lot of games. And the mood is good. Certainly hell being overrun by aliens, or sorry, a Mars base being overrun by aliens, is a good, that sort of sci-fi horror System Shock thing works well. I mean, certainly I think Dead Space did it better, and I think I enjoyed Dead Space a bit more, especially because I feel like to some extent they felt like they ran out of steam in Doom 3, and then towards the end it becomes more of an action game, which at this point wasn't really what I was looking for, but back in 2004 or whatever, that was what I would have liked. So I mean, I think that maybe if they would have started with action game and moved towards horror, people would have been happier with it. I guess let me talk a little bit about the BFG versus the regular and the console port. Well, people, if you look at the BFG Edition reviews, the reviews are bad, which was one of the reasons why I held out for getting it, even though I was interested in it, and I think it's pretty justified. The the saves aren't in a background thread, so I don't know exactly why. Maybe it's a memory issue since they're dumping the state, but like so basically, if you save a game, it has to pause the game, and that includes the sparse autosaves, which are in weird places. I mean, one would think if they're going back and doing some things to the game, they would at least try and put in autosaves in reasonable places, and there are a few, but like sometimes it's like you beat a really hard platforming section and then it autosaves, and it's like, oh, thanks, or but in general, it's a unforgiving game, of the old sort of PC variety that sort of needs that save anywheres feature, especially when, if you're just standing too close to a explosive barrel, it could blow you up. Which happened to me several times. I think most of my deaths in the game were because I was standing by an explosive barrel and then the enemy just happened to hit it, which kind of sucks these days. So, I mean, it's definitely an old design, and they didn't really try and update it. But the biggest problem I had with the BFG Edition is that because of the limited ammo and the variety of enemy types, it's a game where you really need to change weapons a lot and, use the right ammo for the right enemy. But it's extremely difficult. I mean, I don't know, there's like 10 or more weapons, and you have to use the bumpers to scroll, and so, like, they have some D-pad things for weapon switching, but as near as I can figure, you can't change them, and they default to, like, really weird things, like, oh, one of them is melee, which is like, I never want a melee. Why is that taking up one of my D-pad? I mean, it would be really nice if they had a customization, so you could put the 4 weapons you're using, and screw the pistol. No one wants to use a pistol, but, like a shotgun, a rifle, and some other special weapons. I don't know, but that would have been huge to make the game easier. As well, I don't think their auto-aim is quite as friendly as modern console people expect, and so the game was kind of tricky on easy. I mean, it wasn't like super hard, but I mean, I was hoping for a walk in the park, since I was playing on easy, but it was a bit more challenging than I was looking for. In addition, there's also the flashlight mod controversy, which the BFG edition basically comes with the flashlight mod, which, if you're duct tape mod, which basically lets you use the light as well as the gun, which I think is an interesting mechanic from a horror perspective. Basically to have to manually select the flashlight and then go back to your weapon. Because then, essentially you have to look, and then if you see an enemy, oh crap, then you get surprised, and then you have to go to the weapon. I think it's an interesting mechanic. When I played it in 2004, I think the first thing I installed was the duct tape mod, because I'm like, this is dumb. And of course I didn't really have the appreciation for horror games that I do now. But also but just because switching weapons is such a pain in the butt, I feel like it would be unmanageable to add something else into that cycle, or even if they hotkeyed it, it would just be a lot of controller fumbling, which I felt like, especially when you get like the Soul Cube or in the expansion pack that have the heart, and then you can like press one button on the D-pad, and then if you try and change back to your weapons, none of the other D-pads go anywhere reasonable. I don't even know how they work on the D-pad. I don't know. It was a frustrating experience, and I mean, certainly the signs of a bad port, especially the lack of, background saving, which is lame. But anyway, I mean, I guess I don't know what they did for the PC BFG edition. I mean, I guess they added in 3D or something. I didn't play it in 3D because I didn't want to take the frame rate hit. as well. The high contrast is bad for bleeding, so didn't seem like a good fit for a 3D game. Although I do like playing games in 3D. But anyway, I think the main issue with Doom 3 is just that, it wasn't the game that people were expecting. People wanted an action game, and it was an action horror game. Certainly it wasn't a flat-out horror game, but, it definitely had a lot of horror elements that made it less, the sort of balls-to-the-wall action, super game. And so I think that's something to be aware of, when you're doing a franchise or whatever, that, your previous games set the user's expectations, and if the people are appreciating different aspects of the previous games, then, then the things you like, or the things that the game means to you, then you should maybe consider figuring out whether to just do a different game, and a game that you like, or if you want to continue in that franchise and, try and do something more in line with people's expectations. So, I mean, certainly I enjoyed Doom 3, but I wouldn't say it was great, especially given the difficulties with the controller and the console port.